Hi, this is your Swapnil Bhartiya, and we are here at SUSECON in Nashville, Tennessee. And today we have with us Michael Miller. He's the president of Strategy, Alliance, and Marketing at SUSE. Did I get it right?
SUSE.
SUSE.
We're gonna have to look at that video again. SUSE.
Not SUSE, right?
SUSE rhymes with Appaloosa.
Oh, that's easy to
Yeah.
SUSE, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. So first of all, nice to meet you again and sit down and talk
Thank
about
you.
a lot of things. And a lot of things are happening.
Yeah, it's an exciting time
Not only SUSE word, but also in general.
in the industry.
Yeah, last year a lot of consolidation happened.
Correct.
Which also kind of makes SUSE one of the biggest Linux vendor.
On our way, yes.
Yeah,
That's right.
And so let's. But what separates SUSE from the rest of the companies is that open source you talk about.
Yeah.
And yesterday the keynote also we discussed about. So before we get into the partnership, because I think it ties in very well with why open source. So can you explain what is open source when you talk?
So from our point of view, open source means the combination of open source development model and technology, as well as our approach to engaging with our customers and our partners, and engaging, listening carefully, allowing our customers to select the technology and vendors that are right for them, and build a fit-to-purpose, heterogeneous IT solution for themselves. We don't try to dictate the stack from top to bottom. We have a variety of technologies throughout many different areas. But it's important to us that our customers can choose how to combine our technology with other technologies, even if it's a competitive technology, in order to have the best solution for them. And they see real value in that openness.
Yeah, so they can just plug in whatever components they need instead of totally kind of getting vendor logged in.
Correct. And that's why open source and open standards make that possible, as well as a business approach.
Right.
So if you combine the technology and the standards with a business approach that allows and embraces that, then you've got real value for the customer.
Right. But even if a lot of companies they offer open source, there is vendor lock-in. The whole stack can be designed in a way that you can get logged in. So.
And that's the business part of it, can lock it in. Yes.
Right.
That's right.
So now if you just transition from there, where your role comes into strategy and partnerships.
Yeah.
So if you look at today's world, where people used to call it IT transformation, I call it because we have been hearing this word for so long.
Yeah.
I call it the emerging technologies as companies are embracing this technology, and you are helping them.
Right.
So what is your strategy when it comes to because a lot of companies are using machine learning, a lot of new frameworks for IoT. So how do you bring so that they can use a SUSE stack and bring in whatever components they use? So what can you talk about the partnership?
Sure. Yeah. So for us, it's important to look at where do our customers want to go and how do we help enable them. And when we look at where they're going, we hear from them very consistently that they need to have hybrid cloud capabilities. They want portability of their workloads between on-premise, public, and multiple clouds. So they want both hybrid and multi-cloud, and they're really embracing the Kubernetes architecture as a way to have mobility and management capabilities across that whole spectrum. And so we're really focusing and doubling down on investing in the Kubernetes architecture as a foundational element, and then building around and on top of that. So for example, we of course have our own container as a service platform, certified Kubernetes distribution. We have our application management technology, cloud application platform based on Cloud Foundry that is fully natively containerized, runs on top of our Kubernetes architecture, but also any other certified Kubernetes architecture, because we want to give our customers that ability to span that spectrum and have choice across their private, hybrid, and multi-cloud options. So again, not locking them into a SUSE stack of infrastructure, IaaS, Kubernetes application. We can help them at all different levels in that stack.
Right. So where do partners come into picture here?
Good question. So in order to take that approach, that open approach, it's important that we have relationships and partnerships with different vendors throughout that stack. So when a customer wants to create a best of breed solution, they can be confident that SUSE and their other vendor are collaborating together, mutually supporting one another's combined solution. And that's why for us, ISVs and developers are becoming more and more important. And we're building more and more programs around that to connect with ISVs and developers.
So can you just a little bit, elaborate on the programs that you have?
Sure.
I mean, as far as developer community is concerned,
Yeah.
that is a totally different ballgame versus partners. So can you talk about?
Yeah, true, very different. So on the one side, we have a couple examples. One is for the container application CAS platform product, we have a certification program. So, traditionally we had certification on the operating system, but these days it also makes sense to certify with the container architecture platform. So we have a program where ISVs can certify with container, our CAS platform product. And really what that means is that we're going to test together and then support the customer together. So that's one program. And then we're just launching a new developer program, which will provide a whole range of things, access to technology, access to architects and developers to collaborate together to make it really easy for developers to develop on or for SUSE technologies.
What was the question? And as you know, when you work with these partners, and you said you offer support, so is it that they offer their own stack of solutions which is powered by SUSE? SUSE, I'm sorry, whatever. It will take me time to get used to the word. Or you offer your own solution and they just resell it. I just want to understand how does the whole
and actually the reality is that the partner ecosystem is a whole spectrum of those scenarios, where there are some cases where there are partners that essentially take SUSE technology and integrate it into what they're offering and then sell a larger solution to the end customer, and SUSE is part of that, let's say an ingredient in the cake, right? There's other cases where really we're just agreeing that if a partner or a customer chooses to use SUSE technology and the partner's technology, and they transact with both of us separately, we're guaranteeing to the customer that when they put those things together, that we're going to take care of them. That we certify that we will support that combination, but we don't require them to transact all of that technology through one or the other. So it can be a whole range.
Right. So the way I look at it, that they have the whole flexibility and freedom in whichever way they want to get involved or help the customer.
Yeah,
the basic idea is to help the okay. Now let's talk about the marketing bit a bit.
Okay.
Yesterday I was this is a complaint that I have with SUSE. I will take the file. So now you have made me nervous. so I was, she was from the state of Washington, and she was like, "Oh, we are a SUSE shop." I was like, "Wow," because in US we think everybody's a Red Hat shop.
Yeah.
So she said, "No, so I was like, but why don't more people use SUSE?" Or she said, "Marketing." Because you are an engineering powerhouse.
We are a very engineering-oriented company. Yes.
So how do you plan to? Because Mindshare, where people are more aware about. If you look at SUSE, OpenSUSE is a great community.
Yeah.
And they have some great projects like OpenQA. You have QB, which is fully open source, and you used to have OBS, where anybody can come and build a lot of open source projects. They use OBS. Even competing projects. Fedora uses OpenQA sometimes.
Yeah.
So what is your strategy? Because now with EQT, you have more freedom, you have more money, you have more influence. So what is your strategy now going into 2019 to somehow,
Yeah, so that's a great question. And you're right. Now as an independent company, it's a perfect, we're now emerging as an independent company just as of a couple of weeks, and the market landscape is changing. And what we've done is we've looked at all the things we have to offer, including all those things you mentioned, and new products that we've developed. And we're looking at who are the constituents, who are the stakeholders that we need to reach, and what is it that they need to know about SUSE. So rather than just continuing to do the same thing that we have for years, we're identifying new personas or new stakeholders, including developers, including IT operations, all of those new roles that we talked about in our keynote that are emerging from the changes in IT, and then figuring out, okay, for those different types of roles and stakeholders, where do they go for information about open source technology and solutions? And then how do we make sure that we're there sharing what we have with them? And so that's our strategy, is to identify those stakeholders and personas, find out how and where do they like to gather their information, and then make sure we're there with them sharing.
Right. One more thing is that these days everybody talks about a lot of buzzwords. Emerging technologies, IoT. Will you also catch on some of these buzzwords and try to take a ride of them, and then because you are doing a lot of things, it may not be end user product, but in the back end.
Yeah.
So is that also part of your strategy to just
And you mean in terms of making sure we're utilizing the language that people are used to hearing to think about things? So to a certain degree, yes. What we don't want to do is we don't want to be constantly chasing the latest buzzword, but there are things that emerge that, like container as a service is a concept that people understand and identify with, right? So that's something that makes sense to tie into.
Right.
Technologies sometimes, once they've emerged as a clear standard, makes sense to really utilize that, like Kubernetes. If we go back a year or two before, what would be the standard for container orchestration? There was all kinds of different things, right? It wasn't clear. Now we've got some clear standards emerging, so we can utilize that to get our message across.
Going, into 2019 and 2020, and then soon I think SUSE will be 30 years, so whatever it will be.
We're getting up there, aren't we?
Yeah, 2000, yeah. So, because you were the first company after Linus Torvalds announced the kernel.
That's right.
So what kind of company am I looking at? Because you are no more a Linux vendor,
Correct.
You are doing much more than that.
That's right. Yeah, and actually it's exciting because we're no longer a Linux vendor, but we have that Linux heritage and foundation to build on, and we have this great benefit that our traditional mature business is a growing business. It's a growing, exciting open source business. And then these new areas that we're going after, these new advanced technologies, actually are all in some way or another supported by or underpinned by Linux and are growing even faster. So it's a great place to be. And inside the company, it feels different. It feels like we can take all of that experience and foundation, and that's part of what elevates us and helps us attack these new areas.
Right. The interesting thing is when people talk about serverless, there is a server in serverless, and that server is probably running Linux.
Yes, absolutely.
People say that Kubernetes is the Linux of the cloud. No, the Linux of the cloud is still Linux.
It is still Linux. That's
you
right.
run Kubernetes there.
It's
so
still
Linux
in there.
Yes, yeah. It has become boring, and that's what a good thing. Now companies are moving. That's
what become ubiquitous in a way, right? Well, I hate using that word, but it's actually it's true.
It is. Even Microsoft is using Linux for Azure OS and all those things that they're building. So now, last question before we go is, what do you do in your free time? What are your hobbies?
I have lots of hobbies, so I like.
So should we keep a separate interview for that?
Yeah, we could do that. So winter hobbies, I love to snowboard. I'm absolutely hooked on snowboarding. I do woodworking. I draw and paint. Trying to teach myself to paint. Actually,
so do you have a YouTube channel where I can go and see?
I have a Flickr page where I put my artwork. I'll share that with you sometime.
And anything else beyond that?
Cooking. I do a lot of cooking, hiking, camping.
How much do you travel?
I travel a lot.
So how do you keep up with your hobbies? Because some of these things you cannot bring with you, right?
Right, and that's actually why I took up drawing about 8-10 years ago. Is that you can draw anywhere.
Anywhere.
And so I started drawing because I used to do sculpture many years ago in wax and cast and bronze. You can't take that on an airplane with you.
No.
But you can draw anywhere. So I started drawing, and that's what led to painting. But the problem with painting is you can't take that with you everywhere.
Right.
So when I travel, I draw.
Okay, so do you pencil drawing or you use
mostly pencil, also charcoal, and then I also use oil-based pencils, oil-based color pencils, because you can do really cool paint-like effects with them, and use solvents to blend them and all sorts of things.
The only painting I have done is on my iPad with a pencil. That's the most I can do. We should have some of your kind of showcase at next SUSECON where we can show your artwork in a gallery.
Yeah, I'd love to do that.
That would be exciting. Yes, you have a band.
We have a lot of talent.
You should have a gallery too.
Yeah, there's a lot of different talents here at SUSE.
Awesome, Michael. Talk to you, and hopefully we'll see you again at the next conference.
I hope so. Thanks very much.